All right. Well, it is 7:02. Welcome to the February meeting of the Delta Amateur Radio Club, everyone. And before we get to some of the regular business, I just wanted to take a moment to check in with everybody. Everybody just about is from this area, so you know when you're aware of the ice storm that we had. But does anybody still not have power, or is there anybody who needs anything that we might could help out with? Just, I guess, how are you guys doing? Ned, are you still without power?
No, I got it back today 3 times. And that was between 4 o'clock and 6.
All right. Well, does anybody need anything? I mean, it seems like most everybody has power back by now. But I know, we're here as a group. So if there's anybody who is in need of anything, don't hesitate to let us know so we can try to help out.
Well, if you know anybody over in Raleigh, just north of Stage Road, they're still out over there.
Yeah, it looks like kind of the Midtown area is still, a good chunk of it's still out as well. But okay, well, the secretary's minutes and the treasurer's report. Can we get a motion to accept those?
I'll move we accept those.
I second it.
All right, so we've got a motion from Ned to accept those, and then second, was that Steve?
Yep.
All right.
I have a question.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead and vote.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, the motion to accept the secretary's minutes and the treasurer's report passes. Go ahead with your question, Richard.
All right, I was going to mail in my dues, but the form says it's 38134, but on the internet it says it's 38184. So which is correct?
You can actually use either one. 38134 is the physical address of the post office, and 38184 is the lock boxes.
Okay, so either one of them will work.
Yep, it'll get there.
All right, well, you don't have my money yet, and that's the reason.
All right. Well, no, thank you for bringing that up. And so that's something I was going to mention too. We've gotten a few questions because it is the time of the year where we want to encourage everybody to get in your membership applications. Honestly, I think it's no surprise that we all were hoping by now that you could be turning these in person, but we are making that call month to month. Everything's looking good for next month, but again, we will vote at the board meeting before to see where everything stands. So in the meantime, if you know a member of the board, you can turn in your application to them in person. But the best thing to do, like Richard said, is if you go online to the website, deltaclub.org, we have the membership applications on there. So you can go, it's actually a pretty nice format. You can actually type it in if you download the form and then print it out where it's typed. You can also print it out as a blank and handwrite it in if you'd rather do that, and then mail that with your money to the address on the form. So we only process the membership forms once a month, and that so the treasurer will probably start processing everything, and the secretary will start processing everything within the week of the board meeting, and then it gets voted on at the board meeting, and then by the week or so, within a week or so after the board meeting, you should get a membership card in your email from Carolyn, our secretary. So it's once you mail it in, it's not going to be a super quick response unless you happen to time it within a week before the board meeting, but if you send it about a month in advance,
Hello?
just keep in mind it'll be a little bit of a delay, but it'll get there. Now, if you do send it in, and let's say if you send it in at the beginning of the month, and after it, like if let's say you log on tonight and print out the form and send it in the mail tomorrow, and so it's after this meeting today. If you don't have anything in the mail, any confirmation by next month's club meeting, let one of us know so we can kind of look into it and make sure it didn't get lost. That's always going to be a possibility, but it does take a little bit of time for us to process the membership forms the way that it's all set up. So I guess, does anybody have any questions about that process or anything?
The board actually votes on the membership, so that's the reason why it goes to the board meeting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Well, Joe, would you go on and give us a training update?
All right, training class 1-22, which is the extra class. We had the last class last night. It was antenna and feed lines, and we had 8 students there. 2 of them have already passed their extra class exam. I believe 5 others will pass. 5 others are planning to take the exam, and I think they'll pass based on the number of questions, the percentage of questions they're passing on sample testing. That's real good. One gentleman is not going to take the exam. I think he'll take it down in Hernando when Hernando Club meets. So the extra class, that's 7 out of 8, I think, will be passing it, to where that's probably the best percentage of passing of any of my extra class classes that I've had. So I think that was real good. As a matter of fact, one of the gentlemen that passed took the test Saturday in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I was talking to the vice president of the club up there, and he had talked to the gentleman that took the class, and he was impressed with the class that he had gotten. This gentleman got his license tech in general back in November, and he already was now in extra class, to where Mark thought it was probably a pretty good class then. But that's that for the extra class. The technician class is coming around. We've got 11 people that have registered for it. It'll start on February the 28th, going to April the 4th. The first 4 classes will be via Zoom. The 5th class will be in person when we do the review of the 421 questions of the question pool, and provide an opportunity for the FCC exam. And then the 6th class, depending on health conditions, we're hoping to have it in person for the equipment demonstration class on the 4th of April. And then that's right in line, so they can go out and buy gear at Free Fest on April the 9th. And that's it.
All right. Good to hear that we've got 11 in that class already. Does anybody have any questions for any of the current or upcoming classes? Okay. All right. Let's see. John, do you have any updates for Aries?
Yeah, sure. Who would have thought after our last meeting that so many of the skills that we've talked about hopefully were put into practical use over this past week. I liked your write up in the President's Corner also about evaluating what went right, what went wrong, what can you improve on. So hopefully everybody is taking that to heart. As prepared as I was, there are still things that I want to do differently, when this situation arises again. So that's all I'll say. I mean, we can talk a whole meeting about just that, but we've got our Aries meeting coming up in 2 weeks. So far, I've had 6 people respond to the homework assignment, which was to send, and you can do it through Telnet. You don't have to do it through HF or VHF, but to send me a WinLink message to KM4 BVH at winlink.org. So, like I said, I've had 6 people successfully do that, and this next meeting, I'm hoping that we're going to dive a little deeper into WinLink, and I may need some assistance though, because the ice storm did manage to take out my G5 RV. So not sure when I'm going to get that back up, but or may go with another option, but we'll see. So yeah, that's all I got.
Good deal. Yeah, I have a lot I can work to improve on, and I'm sure several of us here do as well. Hopefully we'll be a while away from any sort of ice storm again like that, but who knows? It may not be that far away. Let's see. All right. Are there any other announcements that anybody wants to make before we get to our program?
We need to get anybody that wants a table for Free Fest to contact Art Barnett, wa4pss@gmail.com.
Okay. All right, and thank you for mentioning that, Rick. I think if most of you were on here last month, we announced this, but the Mara Free Fest is on April 9th, and it's at the Bartlett Municipal Center. So they've been collecting different donations and everything. Delta Club has made a donation for that, and each admission comes with a ticket, and then of course you'll have the opportunity to get more tickets to hopefully walk away with something special with that. But hopefully everything will go well, and I just want to encourage y'all. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we get closer, but definitely mark that on your calendar. If you haven't been, it's a pretty neat thing to go to. I know we always, really get into trying to get to Huntsville Hamfest, and there's other large events, but
well, let's see if I can YouTube. Yeah.
All right. But especially if you're new and you're not really sure where to start with your equipment, Free Fest is a really great chance to go to somewhere that it doesn't take a lot of gas to get to, because I know that's expensive now. And you can walk around and get to see different things that are brought in. So some possible equipment to use and things like that. So I'm sure, Delta Club, we are going to have a table where we will be selling some of the consignment items that we've had. So there'll be new gear, used gear, and then I think if they're still going to do it, the kitchen will be there. So it is a great opportunity if you're looking to learn something, buy something, and if not, just see people. So, all right. All right, well, with that, Steve, if you want to do the introduction for our program.
Sure, give me 1 second. Good evening, everyone. We have a guest speaker tonight. Welcome to the February meeting. We're going to talk tonight how to earn the XCC from a small lot. We have Christian Bravo, Whiskey 4 Alpha Lima Fox. And here's a little of his background. You can find more in the QRZ.com page. Christian, appreciate you doing this for us. And I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll let you carry on. Hold on. If I can stop my screen for sharing. There we go. And welcome to Memphis, Christian.
All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen here now. Okay. All right. Name's Christian, Whiskey 4 Alpha Lima Foxtrot. I live in Kentucky. Been here for about 15 years, 16 years. Became a ham fairly recently, 2014. My uncle used to be a ham way back when, and that always fascinated me when I was a teenager. And it wasn't until like my 40s where I came back, kind of circled back to ham radio and said, man, I'm going to try and do that stuff my uncle did, you know. And so I'm kind of somewhat of a newbie. I still consider myself a newbie because I feel like I'm always learning something, and I'll probably always feel that way because there's just so much out there in ham radio that you can learn, and the different niches that you can, you know, rabbit holes you can go down. Well, for a little while now, my rabbit hole's been this trying to achieve 9-band DXCC, which I'm extremely close to. I have 8-band DXCC. My remaining band for 9-band is 12 meters, and I think I have like 96 confirmed. So I'm at the cusp of finishing that. And this came out of an article that I did for QST magazine regarding kind of, you know, the smaller gun trying to get 9-band DXCC from a small lot, you know, from kind of more of the postage stamp lot than the large guys with a lot of area and a lot of antennas. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today is kind of what you can achieve with DX from a smaller lot, and different tools and things that I've used and things I've learned along the way. I'm very active in different areas of the hobby. You know, I do SODA, PODA. For a while, it was just QRP for like a whole year. I decided I was just only going to do QRP, and I still do QRP portable, but at that point in time, I was going after some QRP versions of the awards for like DXCC and whatnot, and decided that I was only going to transmit QRP for that year. And it was actually only 9 months because that's all it took to get the awards that I wanted. So after that, I kind of turned the barefoot power back on. I've done other kind of experimentations of portable, like pedestrian mobile and bike mobile, and had an article come out in QST magazine regarding bike mobile and operating where I had a small vertical antenna on a rack on the back of my bike and hanging counterpoise, kind of like on a fishing pole type thing. So wrote up an article about that and how fun that was. Kind of started out as kind of a silly joke, you know, to do at the field day, and then it morphed into this kind of bigger thing that a lot of people got interested in. I'm a big CW ops operator, CW ops member and instructor with them, a big CW operator. It's my favorite mode and works really well with DX, of course. SKCC Senator, that's the Straight Key Century Club. It's also a CW organization. Obviously a DX chaser, paper chaser for sure. And I like doing this kind of stuff, presenting at my own club and other clubs, and writing about ham radio and kind of getting the word out there about this cool hobby. So I mentioned, you know, I've been working on 8-band DXCC, but I've went after a lot of other cool awards, you know, for DX, you know, sometimes focusing on a different area of the world, whether it be the Pacific or Canada or districts in Japan or Africa. Each kind of organization in different countries has their own award system. So Japan has a whole slew of awards you can go after. South African radio leagues got their own kind of African flavors of awards that you can go after. New Zealand, for worked all Pacific, and worked all Europe through DARC, through German Amateur Radio Club. And most recently, his prop was dying and actually now coming back, but it was kind of low there for a while. I jumped into satellites, so I started doing a little bit of DX through satellites as well. So my experience is varied, maybe not a subject matter expert, 10, 20, 30 years in one area, but I've dabbled a little bit into different areas of the hobby. Let me talk a little bit about my antennas, because that's usually what people want to know. What antennas did you use to do this? And my main antenna was a vertical, a ground-mounted Hustler vertical, stands probably 23 feet tall. It has traps for the different bands. And it's a very versatile antenna. It was the first antenna I put up to use, and it's my main antenna now, and still use it. An incredibly versatile antenna. It's to me, it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife. Antennas doesn't take a lot of kind of horizontal footprint. I have a small quarter-acre lot, in a subdivision. So this was kind of a no-brainer. I have about 32 radials kind of tucked into the ground that emanate kind of out from the antenna, but they're not necessarily all kind of straight radials going out. They kind of meander through trees and wherever they can kind of fit. I found that the vertical works well for working DX because of its low takeoff angle, if set up properly. The key with the vertical is that it's really good to have a lot of radials. That's really where the vertical is going to shine, is when those radials are put into place. In this instance, mine is ground mounted, so they're kind of laying on the ground, tucked into the ground actually. Other instances, you can have the vertical, maybe up off the ground and have raised radials. With the Hustler, I had 10 bands workable. The way I achieved 160 meter, because this was my only, throughout the whole time I've worked DX, this was my only low band antenna. So I've only used, 40, 80, 160. I've only used the Hustler. I've not had really another antenna. I've had some wire antennas kind of set up portable or temporary, but kind of the permanent antenna for low bands always been exclusively the Hustler. Now the trick with the 160, because kind of out of the package, they don't really have an add-on for 160. Another ham operator kind of told me his experience about putting a wire into the 80 meter resonator at the top of this Hustler antenna. You remove the whip for 80 meters into this resonator for this vertical, and you can place a wire into that resonator. And I took it out to a tree, about 20 feet away, and kind of formed an inverted L. And that allowed me to get 160 meters, believe it or not, and enough bandwidth to be able to center it on FT8 and then be able to work CW on either side of the FT8 frequency. And it worked really well. So was able to achieve in a couple 160 meter seasons, was able to achieve the DXCC for 160 meters using that method. And like I said, the low takeoff angle of the vertical worked. Verticals have a bad rap because they're noisy. It helps if you're using modes such as FT8 or CW. They're a little bit more, quote unquote, resistant to noise. Yeah, so that definitely, helped me versus being all sideband voice. But the vertical was definitely, you know, kind of key to being able to have an antenna that would fit the footprint, you know, where I live in my backyard. The vertical is actually in amongst trees. So on top of not being out in the open, it's actually in and amongst trees. You can't even see it from the backyard if you're standing in the backyard. And despite, you know, all those compromises, still a great antenna. For about 4 or 5 years, I had a Cushcraft mini beam, you know, for HF 10 through 20. And that really did help, you know, it gave me some gain and directionality because it was on a rotator on my roof. So it was probably about 33 foot off the ground. And definitely gave me some gain. But at the end of the day, honestly, I could have done this without the antenna. I might have taken me just a little bit longer, but definitely the vertical would have done the job and has done most of the job, really. But this mini beam was a really good compromise of having a really large, you know, beam. It's got cap hats, so it's end loaded with traps, but had nice gain and directivity for the size of this antenna, which basically looked like a TV antenna on steroids. Nobody knew it was a ham radio antenna. Everyone thought it was a really big TV antenna. You know, they were always asking me, it's like, whoa, you must really hate cable, huh? You know, and I, you know, kind of play along with them. And yeah, I like to get channels out of Kansas, you know, and they kind of just ate that up. Anyway, so had this Cushcraft, and it was really good for 10 through 20 while I had it up there. I ended up taking it down because I put up some satellite antennas. But while I had it, it was a good gain antenna for 10 through 20. And one thing that I found out is because of the way I had it set up on this tower and had a ground wire coming off of the coming off of the tower, it was a great receive antenna on the low bands. So sometimes I would switch to this beam just to listen, you know, on the low bands. And sometimes I could hear things on it that I couldn't hear on my vertical. Every once in a while I would hear something. Not super ideal because you're kind of flipping, you know, your antennas. And at one point I accidentally didn't flip it in time and transmitted on it. But great mini beam antenna as well. I've tried all different kinds of wire antennas. I do a lot of portable work. So I do DX portable as well. And so wire antennas are going to work. So, you know, for all of you that are doing DX with wire antennas, it works. I found the key to success really is getting and trying different antennas and see what works at your location. And always experimenting. But mainly always just being on air, you know, because if you're not on air, you're not going to catch the DX. So definitely being on air. Tried a couple mag loops for receive, and they did work. They work best for more local DX. You know, when I say local, maybe Canada, Mexico, Caribbean. It didn't work for kind of that far-flung DX as well for me. And really what it served, the purpose that it served was to reduce or nullify a noise, you know, man-made noise. So I had a lot of man-made noise in a particular direction. So I set up the mag loop receive antenna, which is off my deck, oriented in a way that it would provide some nulling of that man-made noise that sometimes, you know, on the low bands can be extremely high, especially if you have a vertical antenna for those bands. So here's a picture of where I live. You can see the mini beam up on the roof. It does not protrude the roof. This is a standard 4-bedroom, 2-story home in a regular subdivision. So I never really had anybody kind of pay too much attention to the antenna. And there's a little arrow there. You can see the vertical kind of just sticking up. I believe that's the vertical right here. But as you can see, and not only that, is the ground kind of slopes downwards to a creek. So I guess my point is that even in a kind of quote unquote compromised setup, still was able to achieve my goals. And I think that's kind of key, is just to put things up and try things, do research, do research on antenna. If you're trying to go for DX, try to find an antenna setup that's going to give you a low takeoff angle. If you put a really long 160 meter dipole, but you only put it 20 foot in the air, it's going to be a sky warmer. So you do a little bit of research on what's required to get a little bit of a low takeoff angle to really hone in on that DX if that's what you're after. Here's the vertical in and amongst the trees and kind of hidden in the woods. And you can see it's definitely not out in the open. And it's also quite hidden, so for people who are concerned about not having a bunch of antennas kind of out in the open. When my first antenna was this antenna, and I was kind of in that mindset of like, I don't want anyone to see any antenna in the beginning. So this vertical was my first antenna, and ended up going back here in the kind of in amongst the woods. I've read a couple articles regarding attenuation of trees and this, that, and the other. And while I don't want to discredit those, and I'm not saying there can't be some attenuation, I was able to achieve everything that I was looking for out of the antenna, being where it is, whether it be summer or winter, foliage or no foliage. So I definitely encourage you to, just try it yourself, try it out, put up an antenna wherever and see how it works, for you. You can always take it down and try something else. My equipment, I have a little bit of expensive equipment now, with the Elecraft line. But to be honest with you, a lot of it's not kind of necessary or required. Pan adapter is great, audio scope to kind of see where DX is, and if they're working split, where everyone's kind of working, if they're working split. Amplifier is nice if, 50 watts isn't cutting it, or even 100 watts sometimes, and you're chasing some rare DX or trying to cut through the pileup. But again, my philosophy is kind of what a lot of people, do, at least I hope, is you use whatever power is necessary. So, you start low and then work your way up, as needed, and hopefully not on top of somebody. I have an ICOM 9700 for VHF, UHF, and satellite. That's a great rig. Got about 30 DX entities with my satellite set up in that radio. So really love that radio. It's a great radio. I use Ham Radio Deluxe for logging. And it was just what I got in the beginning, and just kind of out of habit, been using that. And actually been thinking about changing my logging software, maybe it's something else. But that's currently what I use. So let's talk a little bit about where to start. So here's, I don't know, well, let's get kind of in your way. Let's see if we can move that. There we go. Choosing the right band, so obviously you don't want to stick with a band if it's closed. If you're working 160 meters, there's different seasons, where folks are going to be most active. The band's going to be most active, for example, 160 meters. You're going to see a lot of activity between, say, about November through April-ish, November through March. And in the Northern Hemisphere, like with 160 meters in the winter, there tends to be less noise, so it's, one of the reasons why in the Northern Hemisphere, that's a great season for 160 meters, because of the low noise. in which the low bands suffer from. Now, if you're in the southern hemisphere, one thing you have to remember is, say the Australians, their winters flip-flopped, in a different part of the year. So they're going to experience, the opposite. So there's all these little things, as you work with that band, you want to learn about the band so that you can best take advantage, what time of the day is best, what time of day do certain areas open. So for example, 12 meters right now, for me, I'm Whiskey 4 in Kentucky. Right about 10 o'clock, Europe opens up big time. And right about sunset, like today, 6 p.m. on 12 meters, Japan has a little window there towards grain line where they just come in. Not all the time, but like today, they were coming in really, really strong. I mean, left and right. And I don't see them that often on 12 meters with my vertical. But I sat there at the time that I knew that they would be coming through. And we'll talk about kind of how to figure that out sometimes. So I was on the air when they had the best prop into my area. And so that's one of the keys, right, is to be on the band at the right time. So one of the other things is, depending on depends on if you're going, let's say if you're going after awards, you might not be interested in FT8, if you're doing this all CW award or what have you. But if you're looking at, say, like mixed awards, be open to different modes. If you're not an FT8 guy, but if you're going after a mixed award, I can tell you that there's going to be a large amount of DX sitting on that FT8 that you're not taking advantage of. And the same goes for CW. So if you are a big DX chaser or thinking about it, CW is going to be definitely give you a definite advantage. And that's why I learned CW to begin with. Being a recent getting my license recently, I didn't have any requirement for CW, but I saw all this DX out on the CW subbands, and I said, man, I got to learn CW. I got to get some of this DX that's sitting out there that I see spotted all the time. So CW is going to definitely be advantageous. It's a great weak mode on the bands. Using online sites to determine openings, and we're going to go through some of those. Like I mentioned, FT8, extremely popular now, not for everyone, but if you're chasing awards, and say you're in a mixed mode type of award, you're definitely going to want to look at FT8. FT4 is now becoming more and more popular, so you might want to keep your eyes open on those frequencies. If you are, JTX user, FT8 user, digital mode user, start looking, if you're not already, start looking at the FT4 frequencies and flip your WSGTX software over to FT4. And, I'm landing some DX there now. A couple D expeditions, did some transmits recently here in Africa on FT4. So I picked up, a couple new ones on 12 meters with the FT4 digital mode. I talked about logging software. Some of this is old hat for a lot of you guys, but most softwares, you want to make sure that when you're on the air, that you're very productive, and that, if you're chasing DX and DX awards, that you're spending the time where you on the band that's open, where there's DX activity and where you need the DX. So for example, in this screenshot, I've got my logging software here open. At the very bottom, it shows me, the C, B, and M is showing me exactly if I have that DX on that. Do I have that country to begin with confirmed? Do I have it on that band, and do I have it in a particular mode that's indicated? So I use that a lot to know what I'm going to go chase after. I'm not going to go chase after Poland you know, if I have it 100 times already in my log for that band or for whatever mode or whatever I'm chasing at that time. So I'm very specific as to what I'm chasing versus kind of spinning the dial and just kind of seeing what's out there. So that's kind of one of the first things that I look at. Also use contest calendar. Some of you guys might know what that is, but I always have that open to see, you know, it's a website and it shows you every contest that's basically major contest that's happening and what the exchange is, and from when to when it starts and runs. And that's very helpful because say, you know, I'm in CW and I'm hearing an exchange, there's a lot of activity in hearing an exchange, and I need to know what that exchange is to kind of grab a DX station that's transmitting in this contest. I can go to contest calendar and kind of learn what the exchange needs to be, what I need to send them. Do I need to send them serial number or CQ zone, you know, what have you. And also telling me when the big contests are on. So even though I'm not participating in that contest, I'll be on when that contest is happening so that I can pick up, you know, all the DX that's coming out of the woodwork. You know, it's funny that everybody says the bands are dead, and then all of a sudden a big contest comes in like, oh, the bands are alive. It's like, just people come out of the woodwork. I don't think it's necessarily, you know, the propagation all the time. You know, a lot of times it is, but again, it goes back to you need to be on the air to make contacts. You need to be calling CQ, you know, see if somebody's out there. You need to be looking at your spots to see if, you know, somebody's there, you know, if that's your thing. You know, some people like are a little bit more organic about finding things, but I'm all about using tools. Some of the tools here I'm mentioning: vocap, DX maps, DX watch. Vocap is going to allow you to, and I'm going to demo these real quick. Vocap's going to be able to give you a prediction of propagation from point to point, typically is what you're going to use it for. DX maps, you know, is a visual map of real-time QSOs that are happening, and it's going to map it out for you. I use it a lot when I was getting 6-meter VUCC. I can see exactly when propagation opened, and then I could run to my radio. DX watch is another place to source spots. Reverse beacon network. You can call CQ, say in CW, and look at your reverse beacon network, see what skimmers out there have spotted you to see where you're open to kind of know, you know, maybe what DX you can chase versus chasing DX is just going to be deaf to you, or vice versa. And I also use Club Log. Club Log has a couple propagation tools. And so I think what I'm going to try and do is hop over to a browser. So I'm going to start with vocap. This is vocap. And let's look at point-to-point predictions. So I had at one point kind of trying to, let's go to prop wheel here. Let's select a location. We're going to be, let's see, here, Frankfort, Kentucky. That's close enough. Let's pick Fiji. We can set different modes. So let's leave CW, 100 watts. You can kind of select different antennas as your setup. But for the sake of time, we've done this little setup. You know, I'm trying to reach Fiji. The prop wheel here for vocap is going to kind of give me the band and the time that it'd be that it's predicting is most likely, you know, that, you know, I'd be able to make that happen. So the darker the color, the more likely. So here it's saying for Fiji, you know, kind of in this area of 2100 UTC, you know, between 17 and 12 here, might be a good time, you know, like let's say you're going to set up a sched, or you're going to them, right? You're looking for Fiji. You're going to get on those bands at that time to maybe look for them. If you don't know, you know, a lot of times when you're on the band all the time, you kind of start learning. learning about when they're there. But this is kind of, a tool that you can use to help you. So this is kind of a propagation prediction tool. It's called a prop wheel, vocab prop wheel. This is DX Maps. So I've got it set to 40 meters right now, and it's telling me all of the QSOs that are happening that it's picking up. I believe it uses things like a PSK reporter or reverse beacon network to feed it. And as you can see, you can kind of see where propagation is right now. There's a lot of US, Europe at the moment, evening at this time. So you can use this as well to kind of see, where there might be some propagation windows. If you're targeting Europe and getting some of that DX, you can kind of look at DX maps and figure out when things might be open. And, of course, you can always get on the radio too and just monitor as well. But this is helpful. It's helpful because if you go over some of these call signs, you can see where they're hitting. So like, you're like, man, is this guy hearing my way? Maybe you see him, maybe he doesn't see you, so it's helpful to kind of get an idea of what propagation is doing. So that's DX Maps. DX Watch, just kind of straight spots. You can search and filter by band, and most of you guys have probably used this kind of thing, right? Reverse beacon network. So reverse beacon network, for example, I can, let's say that I kind of want to see, what areas are hearing me right now. I can do spot search and put in my call sign. And shows you, these different call signs have skimmed me. They've heard me calling CQ and CW. They even tell me my average speed, estimated speed, and more importantly, kind of like a signal to noise ratio. Take that with kind of grain and salt, but gives you kind of an indicator of, how strong a particular area is hearing me. So let's say you're like, man, I need to get Alaska for DXCC or worked all states or whatever. You can use this type of tool to see if out west, out towards Alaska, when are they hearing me? Are they even hearing me? Should I set up the sked with the guy? When do I set it up? Usually those guys will know, the more experienced guys will know when they're open to you. But this is a good way to kind of learn and see who's hearing you. So again, all different kinds of tools to kind of help you understand propagation, what the band's doing, who's out there, let's go back here. So I use a couple of phone apps as well. Hamler is one. And the reason I like Hamler is I can set up what are called triggers, whether it be call signs. Usually it's call signs because I'll see people spotted and I'm like, man, I want to find out when that guy's on because I think I can get him, or I decoded him, or I heard him, but he didn't hear me. So I'll create these triggers in the app, and it will notify me on my phone when they get spotted. I can also set it up so that it'll email me, or it'll just notify me on my phone. So you can do it through a website, so you don't have to do it on your phone. If you're not a kind of phone app person and want to bog your phone down with notifications, you can go to a website, set up the triggers all through a web browser, have yourself emailed, and not be bothered with notifications. I'm kind of a tech person, so I want to be buzzed. I'm always waiting for that next DX, so I want to know right away when they're there, so I can run down and see if I can grab them. These are a couple other screenshots, so here's some triggers that I set up. It tells you the origin of the spot, reverse beacon network, which is RBN, PSK reporter. DX cluster, and it gives you a little information who spotted them. So, you know, if I see that somebody maybe near me spotted, you know, versus Europe spotting this DX, then that's really going to pique my interest, because it's like, okay, you know, there's a 3 call sign or a 4 call sign that's spotted this guy and I want him. So I better run down to the radio, see what I can hear. And it, you know, gives you all the information about the frequency, the band, mode. And there's also other information that it can pull from sources, like if they do LOTW. So like if you're like a person that doesn't like to send cards, you know, you can see what, sometimes, not always, can see what nodes, what mode of confirmation, you know, they'll do. I do send out cards mostly through OQRS, you know, the club logs version of what everyone's kind of DX is using now to send cards. A lot of people don't even want your card anymore, but they'll send you one if you know, go through OQRS. Social media and Twitter. Most other nations use WhatsApp. They don't use Facebook Messenger. They don't use, you know, whatever. Twitter and WhatsApp are the 2 multimedia or media platforms that DX uses as well. In this first screenshot, the Grid Life, that's a Twitter group, and folks will post on there when they're going to rove and activate a grid for satellites. That's a big thing for satellites. And DX will go on there and say, hey, I'm going to be on the air. I'm going to be on this satellite, you know, at this time. So it's a way, you know, if you're not looking for DX, you know, Twitter and groups on Twitter can be another way to know right away when somebody's on without, you know, kind of stumbling across them. You'll know if they post it. And also WhatsApp. WhatsApp can also have groups, and you can use and search on WhatsApp to see if maybe there's interest groups of certain kind of DX that you're looking for. In this case, on this one, I have International AMSAT Ops. So all different countries get onto this group and they post when they're going to be on. And I've made quite a few DX contacts using this app, knowing that they were on, or asking them, you know, and just communicating using social media this way. So it's just another avenue of kind of knowing when somebody's going to be out there, or what's out there to go hit up. I've used skeds, you know, so now that I'm down to like the 5 for 12 meters and finished 9-band, and there's particular DX maybe that I want to challenge myself to try to get, you know, I might dip into my log and say, who do I have on other bands? You know, I did that with Alaska. I said, who do I have on other bands that I can hit up and see if maybe they'll do a sked with me on a particular band. You know, some people don't like the sked. You know, sometimes you'll get a rejection from people because they don't like it or don't believe in it or whatever, but most hams are happy to do a sked with you. And skeds aren't easy. It's not a no-brainer. You know, it's not hey, we're going to do a sked and it's a done deal. Most of the time when I do a sked, and this is why some hams don't like it, is because most of the time you set up a sked and propagation doesn't want to cooperate, and it's just, you know, but if they're willing to maybe try a couple times, you know, over 2 or 3 nights or days or skeds or something, you know, you can usually pick up a DX that way. So I've used that. I've done, if I'm looking for a particular DX, I've done some weird things, you know, probably not the first person that's done this, but, you know, QST Mag might list big contest results, and I'll go and look, you know, it's like, who from this DX entity has a big station, big ears, on all the time, and I will look, and I'll look for those call signs, and I might hit them up, you know, on QRZ, or send them an email and say, hey, can we do a sked? So I've gotten some DX that way as well. Obviously, gray line. So if you're not using gray line, you know, you definitely want to take advantage of that. It can make what is maybe a normal band for you that you don't hear, rare DX or far away DX, kind of show up, so I encourage you, sometimes when you're looking for that DX to look at a gray line map, there are gray line maps online, and see when sunset and sunrise around that time for you, where you might be able to find some DX, like, what part of the world. Play with different antennas. A lot of times I've used WSJTX and put it in whisper mode and did A/B testing with two different antennas to see which one is getting more signals, getting more reports back. So by going to whisper.net, you can look for your call sign, just like I showed you when I did CW. And if you're doing whisper, you can see all the skimmers who are picking you up and figure out and be like, man, this antenna is really hitting Europe, or, versus this other one, or this one's just seems to be much stronger signal into the same area in Europe or whatever. It's not perfect, but it could be an indicator if you're really not sure, like what antenna to spend your time on to hit Europe that night or whatever. This might be a way to kind of put some data to it and see, again, they're all indicators, and none of this is, kind of perfect science, but they're all ways to figure out what antennas to use, when to be on the air, and where to find the DX. And like I mentioned before, most of the time it really involves being on the air, just being on the air, leaving the radio on maybe sometimes and coming back to the radio and seeing what's happening. Or sometimes I have my radio downstairs. I might put it up a little bit louder and be doing something upstairs. If I hear a CW signal or something, I'll run downstairs and see what's going on. Or if it's loud enough and I hear it's a DX call, I will run downstairs and say, hey, I'm going to try and get this person. But that's the presentation in a nutshell. And kind of want to open it up for questions, really, because I think that's where everybody learns with each other, is kind of asking questions, or people making comments about like, oh, I use this app, or, this is what I do, or, other tips and tricks that they have for getting DX or getting the award or whatever. So I'm going to go shut up for a second here and open it up for some questions.
I have a question about your radials on the Hustler antenna. Were they all the same length, or did you have them cut to different lengths for the various bands? And if so,
right,
how many per band?
Yeah, so I actually did a lot of testing with that as I was building it. Don't ask me how I had the foresight of documenting, a little notebook, different configurations, number of radials to see how it affected resonance and SWR. And again, this doesn't necessarily point to the efficiency of the antenna all the time, right? But I did look at these things. I at the bottom of my antenna, I have a radial plate that DX Engineering manufactures. The wires are braided radio wires that they sell. They're insulated. They're all at about 20 foot long, but some of them aren't. So they're not all. It depends on where I had room. So some of them are 8 foot long, in one maybe little 20-degree section, of the 360 around the radio. Most of them are about 20 foot long. So they're not cut resonant. When you lay radials on the ground, the resonance goes out of, goes out the window. In that sense, what you're looking for is the quantity of radials. So the more radials, the more wire you got down on the ground, the less loss, more reflection, the better the antenna is going to perform for you. I found I did track every 2 radials, and as I added radials, high SWR, low resonance, started adding, without adjusting the antenna, it kept adding radials. Resonance would fall into place, SWR would drop, and the antenna seemed to perform better, so halfway through, I operated a little bit, and then added more radials. What I can tell you is if you're ground mounted, you just got to get wired down on the ground as much as you can, and what I found as well, so this will be interesting to comment, somewhere between 28, 30, and then as I got to like 30, 32, things weren't changing very much. Like I wasn't lowering my SWR, I wasn't falling more into resonance. It wasn't like I was hearing all this more, and again, this is more from a little bit more from observation at that point. But from what I've read, there at some point there's probably a point of diminishing returns. But I would say, if you're laying down like 30 radials, you're probably going to be doing pretty good. Now, if you have an elevated vertical, that's a little bit different. I would definitely be cutting my radials to length for resonance on that particular band. But if you're ground mounted, just lay as much wire as you can down without worrying, about cutting to length for frequency.
Thank you.
What type of antenna do you use for satellite?
So I have it's called an M2 Leo package, really popular. So, with satellites, typically what you're going to have is a 2 meter and a 440. Depending on the satellite, one's going to be uplink and the other one's going to be downlink. And the interesting thing about my setup is I don't have azimuth and elevation. I just reused what I had from my mini beam, and I put in at a 20-degree fixed elevation my antennas. So azimuth is the only thing that's changing, right? And the interesting about satellites, for some of you that maybe don't know, is that 70% of the passes you can hit with that elevation. So you really don't need two rotators for both axes to kind of be, working satellites really well. I'm at over 300 grids right now. I've worked at all states in satellite. Always get strong signal reports. I do lose a satellite if it's really low to the horizon or way overhead. Sometimes it'll attenuate, for sure. But typically the M2 Leo package, man, that's a great setup.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What angle do you have the antennas at? 20
about-
degrees above?
About
horizon?
20 degrees roughly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And where my antenna is situated, I have quite a clear line of sight, because at that frequency, if you put your satellite antennas too low, and your house is blocking it or a lot of trees are blocking it. Now, this is different from what I said. So at these frequencies, 2 meter 440, trees or anything really that's semi-solid is going to absorb that frequency. So you're going to get a ton of attenuation, if you put those antennas where they're being blocked by something like houses and trees. So for those frequencies and that type of operation, you want to be as free and clear, as much as you want, as much as you can. So let me throw a question out there. I've presented some of these websites, some of these DX tools and things. What are you guys using? I'm interested in what you guys might be using to look for your DX. Kind of what's your MO?
Real quick.
I found Ham Alert from doing a presentation. Somebody told me about it. So this is, I'm not trying to make conversation here. I have a vested interest in like learning what everyone's using too,
So Christian, I use ham alerts a lot. I mean,
Oh, do you?
I'm to a point now that what I'm waiting for DXCC is not around. It's within the top 10 most wanted. So it's nobody in those places. So
Yeah.
So what I've been doing lately to entertain myself is just to fill in the blanks within the bands, just doing the challenge, right? So ham alert, especially now that I work from home, if I get a text message and I have it configured to look for either the sounds or specifically what I'm looking for. So, but social media has been great because you could get over in Twitter, WhatsApp, and get information right away. And especially setting up the schedules. I mean, I had a station from Mongolia that I've been chasing and on 80 meters for a while, and we did a schedule via Twitter, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, and what's funny is and I'm a tech person, but I never used Twitter, never used WhatsApp before until I got into satellites about a year and a half ago. And they're like, you got to get on Twitter because they're announcing when they're roving, what grids they're on. And then you got to get on WhatsApp because the rest of the world, they communicate. Like, you want to do a skid, they're going to be on WhatsApp, and so you got to get on, you got to get on these platforms. Finally, I gave in. And then when I got them, I'm like, oh man, it's like this whole time I was missing all this activity. Is kind of kicked myself, for not being a little bit more open. And I'm a tech person, for not being a little bit more open and, saying, okay, well, let's try it. And if you don't like it, there's times I put an app, somebody says, oh, put this app, do this. And, I'll try it. And I'm like, it's not really my thing. The one app that I have been trying, for those of you that like digital mode and FT8, the one thing that I don't like about FT8 is, well, it's impersonable, right? It's an impersonable kind of mode, right? A lot of people are like, oh, that's not ham radio. Well, if you're looking for rare DX or faraway DX can be just as challenging to get on, and frustrating to get on FT8 as other modes. But it's frustrating to look at, say, WSJTX and see all the calls come and try to figure out which one I want to get in time as they're scrolling through, and sometimes backfilling. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole type of game, I like call it, FT8. Somebody told me about this software application called Grid Tracker.
It does.
Yeah. So I installed Grid Tracker, and I'm just starting to use it. It's got a few glitches to it, so it's still kind of in my test phase for me, But what I like about it is it'll bring up a screen for you, and it'll show you each call, what country it is. So even if they're not CQing at that moment, even if they're responding to somebody, it shows you the country and their signal report, right there next to each other. And if I can quickly see, oh, I need that, and then I can click it right in Grid Tracker and it'll start calling. So it works in conjunction with WSJTX. And it's just a more UI friendly way of looking at the calls and quickly determining what you want to, call for, versus what I would do, and I still do a lot, is I might see a call and I'm not quite sure what it is, or if I need it. So I'm like typing it quickly into my log program or QRZ or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go after that guy. Now with the Grid Tracker, it's a little bit easier because it kind of tells me, quicker without having to do all that song and dance, so that might be something for folks that are experiencing that same woe or don't like that about FT8 and WSJTX. You might want to look at Grid Tracker because it might make it a little bit more friendly for you in that sense. What Grid Tracker also does is it plots as it feeds what's coming through your WSJTX. Everything that you're hearing and decoding gets fed into Grid Tracker, and it plots it on a map. So you can quickly see, man, it's like Europe's starting to open up, you know? So it's a nice graphical kind of way of seeing what you're seeing on the decodes on FT8. You can see it on a map and say, man, Europe's open, South America's open. Or, oh, wait a second, there's a station, you know, in Japan. I didn't see that scrolling through, you know, and then you can click, go back over to your one screen where the decodes are and click on it, you know, and off you go. You don't have to like scroll and hunt for it, you know, and then by the time you find it in the history, the new decodes come and it pushes the screen up. Oh God, you know, that's such a pain in the butt. So that software's, you know, hopefully they get some of the glitches out of it. It's a little glitchy for me.
Hey, Christian, I'm very good friend with a couple of developers of Grid Tracker. So,
Are you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you want more information, just shoot me an email. But I'm actually bringing one of them. It's gonna be in a couple of months. We're gonna have a talk with one of them. It's gonna come online, do the same thing. But yeah, if you want to, know about it, shoot me an email. And I'll put you in contact with them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I can definitely give, you know, more. I'm sure you've got a ton of beta testers and what have you.
It's no, the thing about Grid Tracker, just to get it real quick, is it's completely open source. So I know guys are always looking for.
Yeah, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a great idea, and that's why I mention it. You know, I haven't fully vetted it out to put it in my presentation yet, you know. But it's really something you might want to look at. I also use JT Alert X. I think I got that right. You know, as a companion also for FT8 to log directly, so I don't have to manually go into my logger and log everything. It just does it, and it also shows you kind of what calls, you know, are active and being decoded. But Grid Tracker takes it to a whole nother level. It's totally, you know, totally UI friendly, totally just a great interface idea in my mind. So I'm hoping as that matures, that's probably going to be a mainstay for FT8, and I would assume, you know, FT4 and what have you. So and FT4 is I think is going to become more and more popular. People are still getting used to FT8, you know, just like when they migrated from JT65 to FT8. I think you're going to see more and more people then going to FT4.
FT4 is just twice as fast. That's all.
Yeah, and it can have its benefits. It can have its benefits depending on what band and propagation issues there may be. So that quicker response time can sometimes, you know, be beneficial and more productive in making the QSOs. I believe it has a little bit less sensitivity, but I don't know. I just made a rare DX the other day with FT4, and I couldn't land them on FT8. So, you know, I don't know. The more tools, in my mind, the more tools, the better. The more modes, the better. If I don't like something, I don't use it. But I love to have those. I love to have the tools available to me so I can pick and choose what I want to use.
I like your point about Twitter. And I mean, people were saying about social media was going to kill ham radio. Actually, it's done the opposite, because it's another way for you to set up a schedule.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see more and more of that as people get more and more used to that and find ways to utilize it, you know, for the hobby. It's definitely used a lot for satellites, you know. I think the more people kind of learn about that stuff's out there, the more they'll be able to see the benefit. You know, maybe not for other things to use in Twitter, like posting all the time and all that nonsense, which isn't necessarily what I use it for. I kind of use it specifically for this this endeavor in ham radio. So kind of use whatever tools get the job done.
I use PSK Reporter a lot just to see overall how my station is getting out, because it's a nice graphical interface where I can see what parts of the world that I'm getting to, and allows me to focus in on those.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know how many of you guys or gals are CW operators. But let me tell you, I attribute a lot of my success with DX in such a short period of time to CW. And I'd say the last couple of years, FT8, JT65, that those digital modes have definitely made DX achievable, like a 9-band DXEC for the small guy. But CW by and large has been an incredible mode for DX, you know.
One thing I do, Christian, and I want to tell everybody else, is with the reverse speaking, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I went on 160 or 180, if I want to know where in the world, you know, I should go outside, move my receive antenna. It's, you know, using the reverse speaking is a godsend, because I mean you get it real quick. Okay, I'm making it to Japan, or you know, with 500 watts, I'm making it to Australia. You know, if I bump it up to a kilowatt, how much? What am I gaining out of this?
Right. And I don't want to make this into something where it's like people need to think that to achieve, you know, DX awards, you need all this. There's people that don't use any of this. They get out, but you know what they do? They're on the radio. They're on the radio all the time.
I have a similar presentation where I show people you can make the XCC on the weekend if you really want to apply yourself, you can do it in the weekend. Difference is when I made the XCC when I was 16, I had to send out for cards. Now you actually can get the XCC in the weekend. By Tuesday, you have the work ready to apply for, because LO2W just makes the whole process so much easier.
Yeah, and one of the things I didn't talk about is, you know, if you're paper chasing, you're somebody who wants to get DXEC, 5-band DXEC, 9-band, whatever, DXEC challenge, which I also recently finally got the first award, you know, the DXEC challenge, is there's definitely a percentage of administration that's dealing with QSL management.
Tell me about it.
I have at any given point in time several spreadsheets open of pending confirmations and what status I have them in. You know, did I send them a card? Did they send me an email saying they don't do LOTW? Or I got to send them a direct card, you know. And if it's a particular DX that I want for my total DX count, you know, eventually, you know, on a roll or whatever, one day. So, you know, there's definitely that admin part, which is not being on the radio, and the research part of propagation, and using maybe some of these websites to understand when do I need to be on. But like I said, at the end of the day, you have to spend the time to be on. If you spend the time to be on, even outside of all these tools, you're going to be able to find really rare DX, even with incredibly limited station and antennas. One of the folks from our local club here, he lives in an apartment and uses like wire antenna inside the apartment and like a little KX3. And he gets DX, you know, a lot, believe it or not. He gets a lot of DX, but he's on the radio all the time, you know. So my point is not to be on the radio all the time. My point is that if you're committed and you are on the radio, and you know when to be on the radio, you know, if you're on the radio a lot, you end up learning when the good time is to get South Pacific or whatever on a particular band. It's all about getting on the radio and learning about propagation characteristics. Got anyone else tools, tips, DX stories on how they
for SKCC, I go on the SKCC SCED page, and that's pretty helpful.
I forgot to mention that one. So for those of you who may have missed it, yeah, SKCC, Straight Key Century Club. These fine folks, let's say you're working for Work All States or looking for DX. They have a SCED page. That's web browser type of chat, real-time chat. So you log in and there's all these active people on there chatting away. And at the bottom right-hand corners ish, you'll see every state or country code that's on at that time. And people get on there to chat and make skeds.
Yeah.
They post what frequency they're on, and they're like, hey, I'm giving out my number, or I'm on, let's make a QSO.
Yeah.
So I just made Alaska on 12 meters, which I didn't have Alaska on 12 meters, believe it or not, with a gentleman on there, N1TX /KL7, and a note, if you contact that person, upload it as N1TX, because it will upload as Alaska. If you put the /KL7, it will not confirm on LOTW. He's been telling me to spread the word, so I need to get on there and let people know too. At any rate, that's an example of where I found Gotten DX. When I was doing QRP, a lot of people like to do QRP on that sked page as well. So if you're a QRPer, you can find a lot of QRPers on there. If you're looking for QRP by 2, you want QRP both ways. I made 2 of my miles per watt awards. And if you're not familiar with that, it's achieving the most miles per watt. And so my record is 54,500 or 100 miles per watt. And the way that was achieved was with 0.2 watts, 200 milliwatts, setting the radio at 200 milliwatts. I achieved a QSO with a gentleman in Chile. So he was like 5,400 miles away or whatever. So that comes out to, hopefully I did the math right there, about 54,000 miles per watt.
Yeah.
And so that's a QRP type of award. And so there's a lot of QRPers on there.
Hey, Christian, one page I didn't say in your slides, the ON4K ST chat rooms, which are, if you're into 6 meters, that's how I got my DXCC on 6. That's how I got it. Because everybody from 6 is pretty much monitoring that chat room.
Right. And, I encourage everyone to, when you're out there, Google like these things, Google, like, is there a chat room for 6 meters? When I was trying to do meteor scatter on 2 meters, that's when I discovered that pingjockey.net sked type page. It's kind of like SKCC sked page. And all the ping jockeys, they call themselves, that like to do meteor scatter, on 2 meters or what have you. They'll get on there and they'll sked with each other, to do that kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to, whatever your interest is, to do a little Googling to see what tools are out there, and you'll be surprised as some of the things you'll find. Anyone else? Any DX stories, anything? If not, my presentation is done.
Hey, Christian, I really appreciate you coming over and working this out for us, and great presentation. And you're always welcome down here for some barbecue.
Great job. Great job. Lots of good information.
I've posted that there to the chat. So some of the links for some of these sites that I kind of went quickly through are there if you need them. Most of these folks know most of these, but there might be some new ones for you. If you have any questions, follow up or whatever, feel free to email me. I'm good on QRZ, so you can find my information there. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, Christian. Hopefully I'll see you in Dayton.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to join our meeting tonight. I know we've got some members who have gotten into DX, but I've not gotten to that point yet, and I sure learned a lot tonight. So thank you again.
Sure. And for those that are kind of just venturing into that foray, don't be intimidated by the 1,000,001 tools and acronyms and things you maybe are not familiar with. I started voice, no Morse code, no digital modes. by looking at my club log, you can look at your log to see what modes, percentage for each year. My first year, I was 100% SSB. I was voice for the first year. I did nothing, and I believe I achieved DXCC that year, or I take that back, I was close to it. So you don't need to know CW. You don't have to be an FT8 expert or digital mode expert. You just need to get on the air and start playing around and throw up whatever wire antenna you can or can think of, and then go from there. Steps. It's all incremental steps that'll get you to the DX. Once you land those first DX, you'll more than likely get hooked. You want more.
All right. Good deal. Well, thank you again, Christian. And if I tell you what we can do too is after we end the meeting, I don't know. I mean, it looks like it's getting late for you, but if you are wanting to hang around, or if anybody else has any questions, I can leave the Zoom up so that way anybody can ask as well and all that. But if not, I hope if anybody has any questions, like you said, they email you and go.
Yeah, feel free to email me. I email people all the time out of the blue, like almost every day for one reason or another in ham radio. So obviously, I encourage others to do the same, with me. I think I have one of my former CW students. I don't know if he's still in here from CW Ops. So I may stick around for about 5 minutes or so. And so if anybody else has a follow-up question or whatever that they want to ask, they can. So I'll probably stick around for about five or so.
Who was your student?
Richard Stafford. I sent him an invite, and I think I saw him in here.
I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So he's not part of your club, but he's somebody that was a former CW student of mine when I taught with CW Ops. And I said, talk to him on, it wasn't the Sched page. You just sent me an email.
Yep.
And I mentioned that I was doing this presentation. And so I sent him the link. So, hey.
Question.
Christian is the best. He's the best there's ever been.
I don't know about that. We'd have to talk to my wife about that.
Or Alex.
On CW, we have a number of CW QRP rigs that we're trying to move that came from an estate. I don't know if you knew AG4CC, Karen Chancellor.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, she passed away and had a slew of CW QRP rigs that we have for sale.
Yeah, I would encourage you maybe to post them on, are you familiar with NAQCC?
No.
It's a North American QRP something club, Century Club, I believe. Anyway, they have an monthly email newsletter. So if you go to their website, NAQCC, they have a monthly email newsletter that's a swap and shop that's dedicated for QRP. So you would have a targeted audience of people who are looking for QRP rigs or selling QRP rigs. Go straight to the source, look for the NAQCC president, look for his email, it'll be on there somewhere, and tell him the story and that you'd like to post. And he'll send you an email and you send the information about it. And then in the next monthly newsletter, it'll go out to all the NAQCC members, people who are all QRPers. And so I've bought and sold through that. I think that's your best bet because
got a number of keys as well.
Yeah, keys as well. So anything that's CW or QRP, anything that's QRO, they're not going to list. But any of the QRP kits, rigs, and keys, that kind of stuff, and keyers, that kind of stuff, they'll list it for free, and it'll go out to all the members.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you again, and we'll keep this meeting open just not record or anything, but just kind of a hangout session, I guess, afterwards, if anybody does want to check in.
Sure.
I want to be sure to mention, Carolyn mentioned this in the chat, and I forgot to mention it at the start of the meeting. If you haven't already, if you could go in and add your call sign into your name, it helps her track attendance for the meeting. So I think most everybody's gotten into the hang of it now, but if you haven't, just add that call sign in there. That would really help her out. And I did want to mention, I'm going to paste the link to the membership application in right now. And I wanted to be sure to clarify that it does take a little bit of time for us to get the membership applications processed. But if at any point, if you do have a question and you're not sure if we got something, still feel free to reach out and ask, because I would much rather you ask and us, go through and say, hey, we've got it, we just haven't processed it yet at the board meeting, than I would than you not ask and then it didn't quite make it to us. So it does take a little time, but again, if you're not sure and you're thinking about asking to check in on it, I would much rather you ask. So and I just had one more thing that I wanted to bring up and just kind of get your feedback on. So I heard this brought up in a question, and Joe gave a good answer on it, but we had some members asking about if we have considered any form of digital payment option with the memberships, and we vote on that periodically, and what it kind of comes down to each time is that we would have to pay a fee, and it seemed like it was a pretty decent little fee for what we charge to utilize that. And so then we've had a couple mention concerns that they would be willing to pay the fee to have the access to that. So I just wanted to, we can bring it up that we do have a new board, not too many members, but we can certainly bring it up again and discuss it in the board meeting and research those options again, if that's something that you guys as a club really have interest in. So is there enough interest here? Because we don't want to burden our members with excess fees, but is there enough interest here, or are you guys willing to pay a couple dollars extra in fees to have access to pay with PayPal or some option like that? Or are we fine with, hopefully once we get back into person, do it in person with cash check? Of course you could mail the checks or money orders, but is there any strong request to look into that again, or is everybody okay with how we've got it for right now?
It's a reduced fee if you're a nonprofit, I'm pretty sure. And 3 clubs are doing it already in this area.
Which clubs, Ray?
Hamlin, one of the Mississippi clubs, and I forget, but there's 3.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to email you a couple questions to get some more information from you later then, if that's okay.
Okay. I like to see it myself. It's I'd much rather pay 75 cents for the fee on top of the $20.
Well, does anybody else have any preference either way? Anybody strongly against it? To look into that again, to offer potentially offer a digital form of payment?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to make any promises, but like I said, it is a new year, so we can certainly try to do a little more research into that again and see. And I'm going to get in touch with Ray to see if we can find out, get in touch with the clubs that see what they're doing and all that, and they might have some better suggestions on workarounds for what we've been understanding. So, all right, well, thank you for that feedback. Is there any does anybody else have any announcements or anything else that we need to discuss tonight?
I guess the way.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, like I said, I'll keep this open after I technically close out the meeting, so that way if anybody does want to hang out and talk, we can. But if there's soon it looks like we are ready to adjourn. So is there any objection to adjourning the meeting tonight? All right. Well, hearing none, we stand adjourned at 8:37 p.m.